being recorded. Thank you. And the agenda is on the screen.
Okay, perfect. So welcome everyone to our November DLT. I think we have a lot to cover today during hold on a second. During this meeting, I think we're all moving along, and we are able to, Mike and I are able to really sit back and look at what's happening in our schools, and then kind of drive the goals and the directions that we are going to support our schools through across the year. One of the things that is very different for us at the superintendent level is because, we spend a lot of time talking about being in uncharted waters instructionally or at the school level, but the supports and goal setting and really targeting the needs of the district based on data that we are looking at is also something that has us continuously adjusting our goals and areas that we're focusing on. So, thinking back to last year when we would sit and go through our goals, that we would see the same from September, October, November, December, you're going to see an evolution of that as we continue. Although there will be similarities with each directive that we receive from the chancellor around his priorities, and then information that we get from schools and visiting classrooms and the needs of schools, we are altering our goals. So today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Before we go through the reading and the approval of the minutes, I would like to welcome Rashmi Krishnarov. She is replacing Laura in sitting as the district rep for President's Council. So welcome, Rashmi. We're happy to have you and look forward to working with you as well. At this time, Louis, can you please put up the minutes so we can read through them?
I also put the link to all these documents in the chat. So if you go click on that link, you can go right to the Google Drive. Okay, November.
Mute.
Okay, whenever anybody gets a chance, a motion to approve in second.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Janet, Christine, and Mary?
Yep.
Okay. Hold on. I'm actually, as we speak, sending an email to James Vasquez because I don't know who our high school UFT rep is, so I'm going to wait to hear back from him right now. So I just sent that.
Charlene's not here either, Danielle? I just realized that.
Yeah, no, she's not. She usually comes a little bit late. So, Esther, have you heard from her?
I'm gonna reach out to her.
Okay. Okay. Oh, is Janine on? Dr. Warner, you on?
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm on. I had a hard time connecting. Sorry about that.
Oh, listen, I know.
I think I changed my password and everything went kaplooey.
Yes, well, welcome. Good to see
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so at this time, one of the things that we're going to start with is, and it's actually going to be, actually, I'm trying to think. So Gus and Mike, do you want to do DCEP draft first?
Yes, I thought Mike was going to do it. Mike, are you there?
I am here, Gus.
He is
Okay.
going to do it, but Gus, there's a couple of things that Mike is not going to do. He's not doing the 100.11 plan.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Okay, and the family
Family
engagement.
stuff,
And
right.
then, yeah, and then before we start, because I did see it in our last minutes, have you gotten any updates as to when the biennial reviews are going out?
Okay, it was going to be part of my presentation. Frankly, I don't expect them to go out. As you may recall, they were supposed to do it last year. I know that Sharon Rencher and Rosanna Napolitano are in discussions with FACE, but it's my understanding, based on the last meeting that I attended, that they have other priorities. So I was told to just leave the old one in because this one is it's an update year anyway. And if the survey comes out, fine, but I'm not holding my breath.
So is there going to be anything to check SLT health, or is that something that we're going to have to do independently?
Independently, I would say, remember how we do it. The survey is one component. Usually, it's the major component, but it's only one component. The other component is based on how many inquiries you get from schools and the interaction of DLT members and district staff with schools about issues and problems and so on. That's the other component. So
Right.
you have that piece. And we could look at the document and see if we want to make any changes, but I don't expect the survey to come out, unfortunately.
All right. So, so I
I
think
may be wrong, but
right.
that's my understanding.
Well, before I turn it over to Dr. Mike, I would like to put this up on our agenda for next month to really talk about ways as a DLT then that we're going to check SLT health, because we know around February, that was when we were doing an analysis of certain things that SLTs have been saying. So a few years ago, we talked about this whole idea of, sharing of goals and parents taking part in implementing goals. And that all came from feedback from the biennial review. So although our biennial review always looked really great all the time, there were certain data points that we were able to glean from that. So I would like, if there's no objection from the DLT to make that a matter of discussion for next month, just around how we are going to actually check our SLT health across the district.
Yeah, and Danielle, if you want, I believe I have. I'd have to check back my files, but I believe I have a bulk of the questions that would be typically asked in the biennial review. That if you wanted to review them as a collective group and decide which ones you wanted to ask SLTs,
Yep.
we can do that.
Yeah, I have that too. That's great. So is there any objections to that, making that part one of our agenda for next month? Okay, thanks. So at this time, Mike, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you to do the presentation on the the DCEP as we currently have it.
So you want me to share the DCEP document first and then do the other part?
Yeah, we'll do that second.
So as Gus shared during the last meeting, the new DCEP template has been made available, which I will show you right now. And we have added our goals to this document. It is still very drafty. We are making adjustments as we're going through. And Gus, feel free to share anything else that you feel is important regarding the DCEP. And I know Danielle just mentioned the 100.11 plan.
Right now, we have the action plans items from last year in there. Remember, the structure's changed a little bit. What you're doing is ELA, math. Those pillars and tenets are no longer there, and a supportive environment. Those are the basic three pieces that we're doing, and the high school piece hasn't changed. It's a separate piece, and I'm waiting for that from the high school team, and they already have the template. They've been working on it. So
the content of the DCP still has many of the components from previous years in terms of the alignment to the chancellor's priorities, accelerating learning and instruction, partnering with communities, developing people, and advancing equity. Also connected to that is the instructional leadership framework, which we have been working on for quite a while now, with the goal of strengthening core instruction, knowing every student well, and having a shared inclusive curriculum, and also connecting that to the supportive environment framework, which is something, as you know, we're continuously engaged in terms of supporting the social emotional learning components of our schools, with the goal of equity and access for all kids. So many of these items that you see as kind of the backdrop of the DCEP is part of what we're doing at the district level. So what we've currently added into this, and I will talk about this in the state of the district part in just a moment so you can see the goals a little bit more clearly. But we have added in our goals into the DCEP. You'll notice that, it asks us to identify the subgroups, the target populations for the district. Right now in ELA, we have multiple subgroups that we are focused on. Students with disabilities, Black, Hispanic, and this should say L. I'm just going to make a quick little adjustment here.
Dr. Mike, before you go forward, two things. Gus, I haven't looked at it, but is everyone's provision the same? Because then the only person I would have to add would be Rashmi. But is everybody else?
Nobody's provisioning has changed in terms of access to the document.
All right.
The document is not on iPlan, as far as I know, which is why I emailed the template. And I'm told it's going to be posted, but I don't believe it's currently posted or available on iPlan. Mike and I worked on it, as you know, on Google Docs. And I'm appreciative of the fact that Mike is sharing the document on Google Docs, because, I didn't know how to download it. So Mike has exclusive control over it right now. Provisioning has not changed. You can add provisioning to someone in addition. I'm told that it will be posted at some point, but it's not there now.
All right. So Mike, we can this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
DLT without editing?
Yes, it can be shared with the DLT so that they have opportunity to view the document.
So guys, check for emails from Google, because Mike is going to be sharing it with you. But here's the piece: any kind of feedback that you would want to give would have to come either in a separate email, or you could save it for our next meeting, because if we give you guys editing privileges, then it would actually change the document as we go in and we wouldn't be able to track what it looked like originally.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say is inside of this, inside of the insert, there's a comment button that you could use if you so chose, but please don't make any changes in the document itself.
Right. So for right now, as what we're saying, Mike is going to show you our goals in the state of the district address that we're planning on doing for the CEC in December, and we wanted to get your feedback and next steps on that. But so that's why he's kind of rushing through the format and where everything is here. But because everything that is in this document, we are going to send to you to look at, but then he's transferred it into the state of the district presentation. So go ahead, Mike. Thanks.
So in terms of the ELA SMART goals, you know, the DCP only calls for a goal in ELA, one in math and one for supportive environment. So the goal that was part of our school leadership goal was really around our MTSS, but it does connect to ELA, so we did embed it in here anyway. The baseline assessments that we are using right now in ELA is iReady, Map Growth, and Lexia. You'll see more about that in just a minute or two when I go through the state of the district. And then the other one is really around improving proficiency in ELA for targeted subgroups. Obviously, all students is always going to be part of our work, but we do need to make sure that we're emphasizing our Hispanic, Black, and L populations just based on proficiency and historical proficiency over the course of time. Now, one of the things that we did change as a result of our conversations at the DLT and the video that we had recently seen from Will Richardson is this notion of deep learning and student agency. So those are pieces that we've talked about during the DLT. So they've since changed our goals as a result. For progress monitoring, again, we will have 3 different groups of schools. We have a handful of schools that are using MAP, a couple of schools using Lexia. Vast majority of them are using iReady right now in terms of a screening assessment. I will share more with that with you in just a few moments. In terms of baseline, it did ask for data as of January, February. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the ESSA data, but as well when I get to the state of the district. But basically, in a nutshell, we've used what the proficiency was for us in previous years to support where we want to go in November, as well as in future benchmarking as we go through the year. In terms of the action planning, there are a couple of things in here that will have to be taken out as they were from a previous DCEP. Not all of them apply. I did add in many things that we're going to be doing this year, but some of them will be removed as a result of us being in a new year and in a new environment. But that will be adjusted as the day goes on. But our action plan has been posted in here as well for from September to August to January, and then from February through the end of the school year. For mathematics, there are going to be 2 assessments that are primarily doing a lot of the screening and benchmarking as the year goes on, and that's iReady and Map Growth. Targeted subgroups, the all students, Black, Hispanic, and SWDs are the subgroups that we're going to be focused on as a district. The goal is, as we receive training, that we open up opportunities for lab schools across the district where we can visit and learn from one another as the year goes on. Again, included in here was where our current state was, and then followed up by, and you'll see hopefully by the next DLT, a bunch of data in terms of where we are as a district by then. And the last goal that we have in here is a supportive environment goal and our parent engagement goal, because they do both connect in terms of supportive environment. One is really around the development of our counseling plans. The other one's really about the development of and support for chronic absenteeism across the district. Again, you'll see in here what our goal is in terms of moving schools out of level 1 for chronic absenteeism and to a place where they're at minimum level 2, 3, and 4. Again, action plan provided here as well. And then the last part is around graduation rate. I know the high schools were working on this and will update us as this goal is prepared and ready.
Yes, Janine, if you could, I'll also reach out to Elaine to see who Mike should send the editing privileges to. But if you can kind of nudge a little bit about kind of getting the high school piece entered.
You got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that brings me to the next piece, just to kind of give you a little snapshot of where we are as a district. in a brief state of the district address, so to speak.
So before Mike goes through this, so I had reviewed this with Joe DiBenedetto, just the idea of doing a state of the district normally. There was a central-based organized state of the city / district that was given to superintendents that Mike and I would have to add to, that was normally done around November. But I spoke to Joe about doing something like this for us for December. So what's going to happen right now is Mike is going to kind of go over the shell with all of you about what we are presenting, and then we are asking for feedback if you have any of things that you may want to add that we will present to the district in a couple of weeks.
So we're going to do a brief district data review just to kind of give you guys just a backdrop. Some of you would probably recall the ESSA data. I'm only going to give you a little snippet of it. We've gone in more depth in the past, but I will give you a little brief snapshot of the ESSA data. We'll talk about the goals. I'll show you a little bit of where we are in terms of the screening assessment, and then where we are moving forward. So 18-19 state accountability data, as you guys know, we are held accountable to the ESSA, to the guidelines that are bound by us through ESSA, which kind of indicate whether or not we are levels 1, 2, 3, or 4 as a district in certain areas. And these are the areas that ESSA data covers. It's student performance, growth, progress, English language proficiency for our Ls, and chronic absenteeism. As a district, we have a total of 261 subgroups. From the 18-19 school year, these are the subgroups that have a level 1. In terms of composite score, that's taking ELA and math performance. We don't have any schools that are at that have any subgroups that are at a level 1. We have 15 subgroups that are at a level 1 in student growth, 2 for combined, 1 for ELP, and 11 in terms of academic progress. Our biggest subgroup in terms of level 1s is inside of chronic absenteeism, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Which led us to the goals that we have of subgroups that typically struggle in looking at historical data. Our special education students typically have remained relatively flat in terms of growth over time. So they've been identified as a subgroup we want to pay attention to in a couple of different areas around building from strength, special education referral process as well. With this idea of building these structures to analyze data is really where we are as a district at the moment. Our ELA goal, I just went through this one, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But again, data systems really important, and you guys will see what I mean by data systems very shortly as I show you a snapshot of data from our current assessments in District 25. But our goal is that we do increase proficiency. We don't know necessarily whether or not there's going to be the state assessments. As of right now, they will be, but we will see what happens as the year goes on. But our goal, nonetheless, with our benchmarking and such, is to make sure that our kids are growing throughout the year. Mathematics, again, we just went through this, really about promoting that deep learning, student agency, really looking to grow our kids as much as we possibly can, as well as adjusting and improving upon that achievement gap that we see in mathematics. There is a significant gap between our Hispanic, Black students with disabilities and our all student subgroup. So we're looking to make those improvements as the year goes on. Our supportive environment goal, one of the things that's an expectation from the state is the development of a counseling plan. And inside of this counseling plan is around developing strategic social emotional learning supports for our kids, which our schools have really invested a great deal of time into. Our schools at this time have developed a plan. Now it's about the implementation and monitoring of it school-wide. And I'll explain a little bit about how we're doing that shortly. Parent engagement goal, this one we would like to discuss a little bit further towards the conclusion of this. But it is around diversifying our communication systems so that we're consistently connecting with families so that we can improve upon that chronic absenteeism. An area that we would like to add inside of here, just to kind of throw it out there at the very beginning. Instead of the school year, part of our classroom visits, including our principals and assistant principals, was really to make sure that this was happening. So 95% of our classrooms visited demonstrated that lessons were accessible to our children, which was really important. And 82% of them demonstrated clear evidence of SEL check-in tools, and has since been improving as the year has gone on. We really believe it's important that we're consistently checking in with our kids to see where they are emotionally. Assessing our students, all schools are going to be administering a screening assessment. Some are in the process of doing that now. Others have already done so. Data from these assessments will be reviewed and shared in an upcoming meeting. Vast majority of our schools are using iReady, some using MAP, and a few others are using Lexia Rapid Assessment in ELA. Now, just to give you a brief snapshot of what we will wind up seeing in the near future, right now we had about over 8,400 students that were tested with the iReady assessment already, of 15,000 students that will wind up taking the ELA screening assessment from iReady across our schools. So you can see the large number of our schools are using the iReady assessment system in order as a screening assessment. Currently, of the 8,000 children, we have 49% in Tier 1, 31% in Tier 2, and 20% identified as at risk based on the ELA snapshot.
Wait, Dr. Mike, I just want to go through that really quickly.
Yeah.
So, so this data information will probably change depending upon new schools that have taken that or will have taken the screener. So this,
yeah,
what we're looking at here may change. But, I think what's really important is that we still are maintaining our focus on assessing students and targeting their needs across the year, even through a pandemic. And I know that is a concern that many parents are having. It was a question that was asked at CEC last month. So, so although we're kind of going through this very quickly with you guys, there will be opportunities to go back and ask some questions, but we're going to go through it a little bit slower with the district, and there will be time for questions.
Yeah, so this is not finalized data. Remember that this is only a portion of the students that has been administered. So the results will most certainly be a little bit different as more children test. It'll give us a clearer picture as to needs across schools. So,
and this is only K-8. So, Janine, again, I'm going to send this to Elaine, but normally when we do the state of the district, we do present high schools, but that information is given to us from Central. So if there is any data that Elaine would like to add to this for us to present next month, she can just send us the slides.
Sure. Now you're talking against screenings in particular.
Yeah, this is a result of our screenings.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
And then just to give you a little bit more clarity as to the domains that the screeners, at least iReady at this point, is assessing. It assesses phonological awareness, phonics, high frequency words, vocabulary, comprehension in both literature and informational text. And this gives us a little bit more of a picture as to the areas that are important for us to continue to focus on. We're excited about the fact that we have this information on a much larger scale. We will most definitely be using this as we move forward as a district and certainly as schools. Math snapshot. Again, not all of the kids have been administered this assessment, but right now in Tier 1 is 45%, Tier 2 39%, and Tier 3 in terms of at risk is 16%. For our district. And then the way that this is broken down is in four categories: numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry, in terms of how this assessment allows us to view information across the district. And in some cases, there are certain standards that children may or may not have had exposure to. So it allows us to see where it is that we need to focus our attention. So next steps as a district, We're going to really spend a lot of time focused on student engagement, specifically with a focus on components to ensure deep learning is occurring through analysis of lessons, activities, materials, and resources, and structures and pacing. We have also, and we're really excited about this, developed a partnership with Apple so that schools across the district will receive training with the implementation of tasks that promote deep learning and student agency. We have 19 schools that will be participating in our first pilot group. After that, we will have the additional schools have access to the same training. So throughout the year, we're looking forward to getting all of our schools having an opportunity to receive training through Apple, with the goal of authentic tasks being provided as the school year goes on. Student progress will be measured multiple times throughout the year through the use of the iReady assessment or map growth assessment. Once those assessments are fully complete, I will have a data set available by the next time that we meet, which make things a little bit more clear for the DLT and certainly the district community. We've also developed a partnership with the Office of Equity and Access to engage in the evaluation of our current systems to disrupt patterns of disproportionality. We'll be meeting with them shortly to discuss our next steps.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Parent engagement goal. This we are, excited about, although we still know that we have more work to do. We are one of 3 districts in the city to be identified as a sunshine district for having 97.1% upload, 94.7% daily overall attendance, and 93.2 year-to-date attendance. This so far is the highest data point in all categories in the city.
But I do want to say this, which is really important. So while we're happy to be celebrated, 94.7 and 93.2 would normally be flagged attendance schools in our district. Upload attendance means it's uploaded into the system, Charlene, where schools take attendance and then it's tracked into into the New York City system, which goes to the state. So attendance is something that we're working on, and we're going to talk about that next month, but also I'm going to go through that a little bit with you guys as well. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So even though comparatively to the city, we are still doing really well, we know that we have, a number of things that we need to still focus on. This is just a snapshot of data as of October 20th was the last time this was polled in terms of chronic absenteeism rates. So, while overall we are doing well, we still have significant growth that needs to be made within our subgroups to make sure that those children that are not currently, and chronic absenteeism, just so that everyone knows what that means, it's basically in a nutshell 2 days a month. So how this is calculated for any child that has been out upwards of 2 days per month would be considered chronically absent because it amounts to 10% of the school year. So that's where these rates are coming into play, and that's why they are where they are then, and how it's based, for record keeping purposes and for our purposes of knowing who those children are in our schools so that supports can be provided. So what are our expectations in terms of
Mike, Christine is asking for who other is in that data. It's any subgroup that's not represented there, correct?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So in terms of district expectations, all schools, there's an expectation for all schools to have what we call a CASE team, cultural attendance, social emotional learning. Some schools have a different name for it, which is totally fine. We have one school that calls it the lift team, another one calls it the C team. The bottom line is that there is a team available in each school to focus on these components: the attendance, social emotional learning, and cultural responsiveness. So each of our buildings has these. There's an expectation that they continue to implement the systems of support in terms of routine monitoring of school-wide attendance, and refining that as necessary. Continued collection of data to personalize systems of support for children that are chronically out, so that there is a network of sorts that when children are out, we have a system of communicating and contacting families to see what supports are necessary to ensure that children are connecting on a daily basis, and then create systems and structures so that schools across the district know what's going on across subgroups. Are there particular subgroups that are or are not having difficulty with chronic absenteeism? And then more importantly, what are we doing about it as individual schools and then at the district level? So what does this mean for us? So we've identified several schools at the beginning of the year that had higher rates than typical for those schools. So we've organized networks of schools so that we can begin drilling down further and creating systems and structures and plans to support those rates in our buildings. We know logically if our kids aren't connecting and they aren't attending, then it's going to be very difficult for them to learn. So learning is obviously the most important thing that we can do for our children, and creating an environment that is helpful for that is what our case teams are charged with doing. This also connects with our parent chats. You've heard Danielle talk about this quite a bit. We have trained parent coordinators across the district in what a parent chat will look like. We've given them a modeled experience of what a parent chat could look like. In fact, there is a parent chat amongst those schools that I just described that will be happening this week
On Friday.
With those parents from those communities to really organize around how they can be more supportive of our children that are struggling with attendance at this point during the year.
And I want to just talk about parent chats just very briefly. And, you know, a couple of things that I think are really important is that parent chats are not the school kind of feeding information to parents. It's sort of introducing an idea or a question that schools need to work through and getting feedback from parents in certain areas. So in the 3 schools that we're talking about, the parent chat is really about what are some of the systems and structures that we can continue to build upon to support chronic absenteeism. But for other schools, it could be conversations about the grading policy or conversations about what's happening in terms of remote instruction. So we are encouraging this. So parents do have a seat at the table around meaningful decisions that are made at the school level. And any information from a parent chat could go to a principal or to the SLT or to help drive goals. So this is just another way to get feedback. There's been such a high interest in parent chats that, you know, once schools start to roll them out, that we've told other parents that you can observe a parent chat. You can't speak at it if you're not selected to speak at it, but you can observe the conversation that's happening and give feedback should you need to. We're speaking specifically for parent chats because this is a place that we're starting, but there will also be staff chats, administrative chats. But these are really important, especially during this time, and we'll continue after to really get perspective from each constituency about the needs of each individual school. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and what's really, you know, quite positive for us, and, you know, you guys know that chronic absenteeism was part of our district-wide goals last year. And up until March of last year, the vast majority of our schools, if the year would have ended at that point, in terms of tallying our chronic absenteeism data, the vast majority of our schools would have made significant improvement from where they were the previous year. So, you know, it's obviously this year is certainly different for a lot of reasons, but I do believe that that our schools are going to really do a great job of connecting with their kids because of the work of their case teams. So, looking forward to seeing how we progress in this area moving forward. So our supportive environment goal, one of the things that you will hear from your schools, all schools will be administering an SEL survey to their kids, focused on the following areas: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship building, and responsible decision-making. This will be occurring for children in grades 3 through 8. The reason it's in grades 3 through 8, it becomes a little bit more difficult for children in K to 2 to complete these types of surveys and get data that is reliable. So we are working on this for children in grades 3 through 8 at this time. In general, all schools are also doing checkpoints with their kids to see how they're feeling. So that is a way that we're connecting with the early childhood kids as well. But you will see or hear from, or should hear in our schools, that this is something that they will be doing so that we can make more purposeful decisions inside of our counseling plans, and then to monitor over the course of the year. These surveys will be administered multiple times so that we can gauge progress as the year goes on. In order to support this goal, we have organized monthly meetings with our school counselors to provide professional learning supports. The Office of School Health has really been very supportive of us in terms of providing strategies for our school counselors and working with us in terms of social emotional learning supports. We have organized counselor chat groups. In fact, there are a couple of them happening today for a pre-meeting before they meet with me tomorrow to talk about any necessary supports or anything that they're seeing inside of their schools that we need to focus on as a district. We've worked with the borough office to review our counseling plans, and feedback has been provided so that we are really emphasizing the impact of our work in our schools. So lots of good work happening here already. Looking forward to showing you a little some snapshots as to what that data looks like across our buildings during our next session. Not sure if I froze up or. And that was my last slide. That was the last slide, Danielle. So
Okay.
that's kind of where we are right now as a district.
So just a couple of things, Mike, if you can go back to the beginning, I'm just going to briefly touch
Sure.
upon a couple of other, a couple of slides that we were talking about. So
Where do you want me to go, Danielle?
start with the ELA goal. So one of the things that we had spoken a lot about as a district over the years is that because individual schools had autonomy to pick and select the way they were going to assess, the way they were going to assess their students, it was very difficult for Dr. Mike and I to get a handle on like schools' progress and how they were monitoring it. So we've had conversations with our schools over the past few years, and we've been able to get the selections down to 3 key assessment tools. One of them is Lexia, that there aren't that many schools using them. A majority of our schools are now using MAP, which is the free program that comes from the city, and iReady, which we were able to acquire as a complete district for the screener at a very low price for our schools. Using these 3 tools, and Dr. Mike is working very closely with the borough, we are able to get a clear picture of the needs of our students and how we can start talking about moving the instructional core, which is the curriculum, instruction, and student response, in order to find gaps which we know exist clearly this year because of the pandemic, and then start making decisions about what to do with that. So that's why it's really important that we focus on strengthening our data systems across the district. There are some schools that have some really strong data systems, but even schools that have really strong data systems, there's only a small amount of people that own and manipulate that work. So we are working to get these happening school-wide, and that there is this constant ebb and flow in looking at data to monitor students across the year. So that's the first one. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So Mike, if you can go to the second. And then it's the same piece with, math in terms of our data systems. But one of the things that we thought it was really important to do is that we were on a great trajectory with Bank Street and really supporting our teachers especially in the elementary schools, in building math content knowledge, and working towards supporting our middle school teachers with expanding teaching skills in order to go beyond just teaching of the content, but enhancing critical thinking, right? So that is where we are continuing to focus in building learning laboratory schools that are our schools that show really good practices, especially now, and we're starting to look at it, is who's got some really remote classrooms that other teachers should come and look at, where critical thinking and student agency and student engagement is happening. What are some blended learning models that we're seeing that we can allow other schools to come and look at so they can have an example of what these practices can and should look like. So that's actually the work that we're heading towards in terms of math. Okay, and you can keep going. And supportive environment is at a duality for us, and you heard that Mike spoke about that with us. So right now we're really targeting our guidance counselors around building their capacity in tuning into social emotional learning and strategic restorative practice plans to support both our in-person and remote learners. But we are aware that this focus should not just be on our guidance counselors, but there also needs to be some deep training of teachers. And in building our capacity of guidance counselors, there will be some guidance counselors that are ready and able to do that to support our teachers. But if not, we will be working very closely with the borough to ensure that that happens. But the key point area, the touch point area that we are all going to be using, both Dr. Mike and I across the district, individual schools, as well as the borough, is this consistent monitoring of the school counseling plans. Okay, keep going, Mike. All right. Mike, where did we see the MTSS piece? How did I miss that? Is that in our ELA goal? What?
Nope. I might have, maybe I only went to the ELA. Go ahead. This is the school leadership goal.
Okay. That was, okay, all right. Now I want to talk about MTSS because it's more important now than ever. So yes, we are always charged as a district and schools with focusing on key subgroups, but understand that in this current level, and this is why we want to hone in on improving our data systems as well and making sure that they are school-wide, clearly understood, easily accessible, because MTSS used to refer to your most struggling learners, right? But under this pandemic, we have different layers of struggling learners. So any kind of MTSS plan for us as a district, we're always going to be talking about our most struggling learners, our Ls, because that's what data shows, our multilingual learners, because that's what data shows, certain subgroups such as our Black and Hispanic students, because that's what data shows. But now we're also going to be honing in and focusing on MTSS as a model to gain an understanding of who really are your struggling learners and why, especially during this pandemic. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. And now we can go back to, I think I touched on all of them, right?
Yeah, just the parent engagement goal, Danielle.
Right. So parent engagement goal is, and we're really excited about this parent chat. And I saw, Joe, that you had asked who's monitoring that. So that the information about parent chats are going to be held at the individual schools, but Mike and I will be gathering data around the success of that. A couple of things that we're going to start looking at. We want parent chats to be meaningful. So the first thing we're going to do is we've given our parent coordinators a month to start a parent chat. One of the things we're going to be analyzing right away, and we can present this to you at the next meeting, so Mike, take notes. We're going to be analyzing the questions that are asked, the type of information, right? Because for those of you who participated in the parent chat, and I know Christine, you were one of them, if you see that we did not feed any information to parents, we showed them a brief video, we kind of introduced a question, and then we just let the parents speak. And Dr. Mike and I both took notes, and then our summary was, so where did this chat take us, right? And what are some of our next steps? So we're going to be tracking that, Joe, in the beginning, but then we also are going to look at our parents talking in alignment to individual school-wide goals that are in the CEP, our parents speaking about things that matter, right? And things that are necessary in order to move the school forward in achieving the goal. And throughout the year, we're going to be pushing that through our parent coordinator meetings, but it is also something that we're continuously speaking to principals about and assistant principals about in how you're managing your parent coordinator to support that in the best way. The other push that we're working on, so say for example, chronic absenteeism, and that has become a pretty wide and needy focus of our district for a lot of reasons, right? So there's a lot of communication that are happening between schools and families of chronically absent students. And I will say to you, the parents of chronically absent students that are receiving this notification are not happy. So one of the things that we're asking them to do is to become part of parent chats. And we're finding out some information that we have made some changes in schools. So for example, a lot of things that parents are saying is the reason that their children are not logging on is because they can't. So there's some technology issues, not a lack of technology, but technology issues. So individual schools have created office hours and phone call times for parents to call in to get support to ensure that their children have the technology that they need and are able to log in, and actually teach parents to tab certain things aligned to an individual student schedule. So we've started to do that based on information from parent chats. But parents here that are sitting at this meeting, you're probably going to hear some complaints happening from parents because they're not happy that they're getting all of these phone calls from us. But it is so important, and we talk about this a lot, like as we're figuring out what's the best way to deliver instruction remotely, we have to make sure that our students are able to access it. And if not, we have to help parents do that. So it is a different level for parents as well. And I know, because I've lived through this, all of a sudden, your whole life as a parent, you've been sending kids to school, right? And picking them up and helping them with their homework, right? So I've spoken to Joe about this. I've spoken to Christine about this. Frances Gonzalez at the last parent chat said something very interesting. She said, I'm doing school all day and then I'm doing 2 hours of homework, right? So we are where we're very used to giving our kids to a school and then having them come home and getting in touch with families, with a teacher if we needed. And now it is a completely different thing and a completely different level of ownership on behalf of the parent. And many parents are struggling with that, myself included. So I want to say to you, I understand that. And that is something that we've been talking to schools about, and they have answered to that question. So I think it's really important that we continue to work on our communication systems with families. That includes the use of technology, because now we need it more than ever, and allowing for a variety of different opportunities for families to access the school in different ways. But I will say, parent agency and parent accountability has gone to a different level in terms of educating children. And on one side, I love it, but on the other, it is a struggle in culture and relationships, because a lot of parents have particular feelings about this change. So this is something that we're all working on together. And I think it's important that we continue to talk about this at the DLT, both to schools and to parents as we roll this out, because if we don't talk about it, it really is going to start impacting the culture of our schools, which we don't want. Okay, so if you could just continue to go down, Mike. Just go slide by slide. I just want to make sure there's nothing that I missed. Okay, keep going. Okay, we talked about ELA and iReady. This data that Mike is showing, this is part of ways that we're improving our data system and what we're getting, right? So Mike goes through this with you guys. He goes through this with the community, but then we go and we let schools know, the district as a whole. And then when we go into schools to speak with individual principals and decisions that we're making, we're using the same data. And I actually want to talk about that in a few minutes. So keep going, Mike. Okay. So as Mike and I continue to add to our action plans, and the action plans are things that we are doing to achieve our goals. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about that Mike and I have been doing over the past few weeks, and we'll be finished with this a week from Friday, is we've been speaking to all of our schools, and Mike, you'll add this for the state of the district also. We've been speaking to all of our schools about their curriculum, right? So right now, what we know is we have some really solid classrooms, teaching classrooms, both in school and remote. But we want to make sure that that each school is teaching from a curriculum that is cohesive and coherent, right? So we've been meeting with our principals and discussing three things with them. Is your curriculum shared? Meaning, is everyone in your school using it? Is your curriculum equitable and accessible? And is your curriculum digital? Inclusive, I'm sorry. Is your curriculum shared? Is it inclusive? And is it digital? So we actually started last Friday, and we've been going through each core content area with our principals and ensuring that the curriculum is all three of these things. Some of our schools have to do a little bit of work on that, and there's going to be support for that. But and most of our schools, we know, actually all of our schools, the curriculum is shared. The two areas that we will be supporting all the rest of our schools with are the inclusive and digitally accessible. So that is a starting place for us. And once the data starts to come in, we're going to be using both of those things in order to support our schools in moving forward to make sure that that there is consistency in learning across the district. Okay, keep going, Mike. I think that is it. So our relationship with the Office of Equity and Access, that goes to two areas for us, right? The first piece is around MTSS, where and we've talked about this last year, a lot of the perspectives by which we offered MTSS was from a deficit model. And now we want to continue our work in keeping it at a strengths-based model, right? So like, what are the things that that our students do well, even if they are struggling? What are some of the things that they do well? And how can we use those strengths in order to build areas of weakness? So we're going to continue to do that with our Office of Equity and Access. And then also do some work about the inclusive curriculum piece that we just talked about. And that is inclusive as well in our work that we're going to be doing with Apple. So we're excited about that as well. Okay. It's chronic absenteeism I spoke about, and the work of our case teams and parent chats. And I think that's it for now. Support, social emotional work. Yes. Okay. So I know that we just, as always, gave you a lot of information, but two questions. First, are there any questions? And second, is there anything that you would like to see us add for next month's district presentation? Okay, so I'm opening up the floor.
I wanted to make a comment, if you don't mind, Danielle, on parent engagement. Mm-hmm. Okay, can you hear me? Because there's a lot of noise in my.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I just, I find that, especially now during our CEC meetings, we're getting a lot more parent turnout. I mean, we're consistently over 100 participants. So I think maybe if we put something, I don't know, if we, that's another mode of engaging with our parents. So, and it's a good source. So, maybe we could put something in our goals, engagement with CEC.
That's great feedback, Joe. And we can add that to the action plan, Mike.
Exactly.
Right, because that would be a lever by which we're using both data tools and technology to deepen engagement. Right?
Joe, could you say a little bit more about what you mean? You said engagement with this. Can you say a little bit more?
You know, just in terms of putting it in our goals, right? So I'm finding more and more parents are coming to our CEC meetings, and they're becoming more and more vocal, as very different from when we had our live meetings, because we'd only have 10 other parents come to our meetings, and now we're getting a whole slew of parents, and it seems that they're becoming more and more involved in participating in our CEC meetings. So maybe we can, you know, tie that into our goals. I mean,
I also think, Mike, maybe something that we can add that it is because of the topics that the CEC presents, right? So, and how they are in essence aligned to our district goals, right? So when Joe asks us to do a presentation, he does directly align it to the needs of the district that comes from feedback from the community, but also how that's in alignment to the work that we're doing. So I think we should say in aligning, right, our CEC presentations to both our school goals and the needs of the community, that is supporting our goal in that area, right? So I like that. Thanks,
Yeah,
Joe.
perfectly said.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, written down, and we'll definitely be adding.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
I mean, the only thing, Danielle, was just adding the parent chat piece. If no one objects to adding the parent chat piece as part of the overall goal, that we were, you know, that would be an embedded part of the plan as well.
And I think, Joe,
I like that. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, you brought up a good piece of you were kind of questioning how we're going to monitor that, right? And so I'm thinking by January, you know, we'll have done a review of not just whether or not schools did them, because we don't just want to do them, but an evaluation of the questions and alignment to both district and school-based goals.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did during the first chat, we concluded with a parent survey as a means of kind of gathering information as to, you know, what, you know, one, how it went, but also things that were successful about it and things that we needed to improve. So it serves as a nice measuring stick in terms of, one, are they being administered? One, are we doing them? If we're going to have it as a goal, we need to be doing them, right? But the other part of it is, what did we notice from them to make them even better? That's contributing to impacting our schools. That's really what it's all about. It's not just that we're doing the chats, but they're being used to help impact schools in some way.
Okay. Any other feedback that you have just around how we're focusing this work? And this ebb and flow and transfer is going to be what we use to engage in our state of the district, but it's also, you will see a lot of this surface in the DCEP tool that, you know, and document draft that you'll be given as well, because it does represent the work that we're doing. Okay. So you guys like it? Is that what I'm getting? Everybody's good? Christine, I know, Charlene, I know you had asked some questions while we were speaking. I just want to make sure they were all answered, correct? No? Yes? Want to add, take away?
Hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No, I was just a little confused with the breakdowns because I thought hit every racial group, but then I see other, and the number is so much larger than the other groups. So that's why I wanted to know, well, who is in other?
Gus, can you clarify that?
So Danielle, that comes from, I can get the breakdown of that. Usually, typically, Charlene, the reason why there are disparities like that is because the other subgroup is very small, which makes that look a lot more significant than it is. But I will get the breakdown of the other for you for sure.
Right, and that's why you'll see like there are certain subgroups, as Dr. Mike said, where the percentage is so small, but if if we have 2 students in the district, if one doesn't do well in an area, it will be 50%, let's just say.
Okay, now it makes sense.
But,
Thank you.
yeah, but you know what, Mike, if we could just get
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So before I turn this over to Gus, there's just a couple of announcements that I wanted to go through with all of you. And Gus, also one of the things that I wanted to talk about is I know that you had sent me a goal report a few months ago, and I was wondering if we can have an updated one, because I do want to spend some time going over that with Dr. Mike, but also with the DLT, just to ensure that in some way our school goals are aligned to the DCEP goals. So is there a way you can download that goal report for us and send it to everyone?
Yes, I'll just, if you don't mind, shoot me an email, and I'll use your email to make a request that we get an updated goal report.
Okay, perfect. And then just a couple of things that I did want to announce. So I talked about the curriculum review that Dr. Mike and I are doing. And so at next month's meeting, we're going to report to you based on that. Additionally, on our agenda, we're going to do different ways that we check our SLT health, and that is going to include a goal review report, and also any types of questions that we might want to ask them in a survey, just so we can get information and to provide supports. Now, also, once again, one of the things that I think is really important is all of us have people that we're assigned to in terms of supports for school-wide SLTs. I'm going to continue to encourage you to check in on your SLTs, or you can even reach out to your principal or the SLT chairperson and just basically say, is there anything that you guys need from us, to support? Following this meeting, or whenever you guys set it up, Esther, you'll make sure that Rashmi has all of that information. And Janet, if you could just add Rashmi's information to all of the documentation where Laura's was. So her schools that she'll be supporting, where Laura once supported, you'll just add Rashmi's name and just make sure that all of those documents are updated and sent to everyone. But Esther, just make sure that it was at the beginning of the year where I had sent that one folder that had all of the information that should get to Rashmi. Next, the last thing I want to say is that we have been doing COVID testing, and in some cases weekly, and in others we've been doing monthly. And our schools have been doing really well. I just want to say that the governor just came out with a new list of his yellow and red zones. All of our schools that have been in the yellow remain in the yellow. So that's good that nobody's gone back to red. And we have had some cases where we've had to close individual classrooms, or sometimes, depending upon what Test and Trace says, individual schools. So for example, PS 24 is closed today for further investigation just around Test and Trace, because Test and Trace does an initial investigation, and then if they feel they need to do something more to ensure that spread has not happened across other classrooms, they will close the school for a day to initiate an initial investigation. And then in other areas, we have schools that have closed individual classrooms. So I just wanted to update all of us on that. So that case is 184, and where they've closed an individual classroom to quarantine for 14 days. PS 24 is closed today, and the community will hear further guidance by the end of the day today about reopening tomorrow, or keeping the school closed for 14 days. Okay.
So Danielle, if I could really quick. So I just went back into the data, just so you know, the other section for all of our schools amounts to 12 children. And that number's been cut in half since the last time that we've looked at it. So the chronic absenteeism rate for the other is 16% and not 32%. And again, typically happens when numbers are very small. We'll change the overarching percentages there. So just to give you a quick little update.
Also, I just wanted to do a quick reminder for all of us when we do reach out to SLTs. Remember, support is not monitoring. Support is just that. It's asking anything that they may need from the DLT. And also remember, as DLT and SLT guidelines say, that if you are an observer, you cannot speak, right, unless you are asked permission. And actually, some schools say you need to do it prior to the meeting. So let's just make sure that we're acting in a supportive capacity when we go and reach out to all of our schools. Okay. All right, Gus, so I'm going to turn this over to you.
You're on mute, Gus.
Thank you, Danielle. The first thing I want to say is I want to compliment the district on your State of the District report and your elaborate analysis of data using a lot of individualized sources. You've got a number of special initiatives that I jotted down. The challenge, my first topic is about the DCEP, is to have all of these special initiatives that you're doing reflected in the DCEP. The template, as it is, for example, does not have a separate section for parent engagement. So, like the parent chat initiative that you mentioned, and some of the other things you're doing, would be put in various places. So, as we do the action plan, we need to be mindful and make sure that it reflects all of these special things that you're doing, which will make your DCEP unique and reflective of the wonderful things you're doing in the district. The deadline I've been given, and deadlines are often somewhat fluid, particularly in these special circumstances. We're supposed to complete the DCEP by the beginning of next year. In other words, in January. So we're supposed to basically have it done after the, I guess, January meeting. Typically, these DCEPs get finalized a little later, but that's the timeline that I'm given at the moment. And I'm very appreciative of all of the work that the district team, particularly Dr. Mike, is doing in terms of putting in information and so on. I have been told that it's going to be posted, so that they say will be posted, I guess, in iPlan after January at some point. But I don't have any details on that at this point. Now, one piece of the DCEP that, and I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully I can get it to work. Let's see. Can everybody see that? Is the parent engagement policy, is that visible to everybody?
No, guys.
Okay. Let me see. Maybe I have to go back and get a different screen or something. Let's see. How about now? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, Gus.
Okay. Well, what I did was I cut out the parent engagement policy from the old DCEP. And I believe I sent it to the district, so you all should have it. What I'm asking is that you look through it, particularly with all of this information that you're getting from the parents at this point, and see what kind of update we want to do. I'm scrolling down to the end, the adoption section. Let's see, when did we adopt it? It says here December of 2018. So it runs out this December. So what we want to do is have it on the agenda next month, folks. And if you can go through it, and we can do an adoption for the December meeting, which will put us in line with next year. Does that sound like a plan? Is that doable?
Yeah, they have copies of it. I mean, do we need time? Do we want to wait a month and spend the month to reread it, and then we can certify it next month?
That would be fine too.
I mean, it's up to, do you guys want to do this now, or do you want to read over and certify it next month? Feedback?
Yeah, I mean, it's, whatever you want to do is fine with me.
It's pretty hard to see in the screen, and we did it December of 2018. So as Gus is saying, every 2 years it needs to be updated. So so this would give people time to actually read through it more clearly, and we could be ready to either add anything, take away, and finally certify next month. So
And Danielle, it'll be within the Google link that I share with them to have access to the whole DCP. It's right in the DCEP.
Yeah, but Gus also separated it, and I had sent it to you guys on Thursday. So if everyone's okay with taking a month to read through it, and then next month we will all certify it. Are there any objections to that?
Not at all.
No objections.
And let me remind everybody that when you sign the DCEP, there's no separate parent engagement signature page the way there was in the that some of you might remember in the past. And I've been told that the way we're handling DCP signatures this year because of COVID is there's a program called DocuSign that I've been given an account for, and I'm going to be given instructions on using this DocuSign mechanism for getting all of my DCEPs signed and approved. So, you know, we're in line for the state, because the state always wants to see that things have been properly signed and people have agreed to things, etc. So more information on that will be forthcoming. On the 100.11 plan, we already discussed that, and you're going to do your own individual initiative, which is great. So my next item is the CEP. I have a timeline. Let me see if I can get it visible on the screen. Did it come up? No? I guess not. Okay, well, let me just go through it. I think I've sent it to everybody in the past. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been spending a lot of time with schools, principals and assistant principals, etc. Called me all the time or text me or have team visits, etc. All schools are now entering, they did their goals. iPlan is active, and all schools are entering their action plans and progress monitoring. It's the same structure as when they entered their goals. There are these boxes or tiles. You click on each area of concentration, and you type in the information. I'm hearing some background noise. Schools have been doing this. One issue that's come up, and I'm told that it's been fixed, but I want to warn everybody because I had the experience myself. If you're working on this, please let the schools know. As you're working on entering your action plans and progress monitoring, if you're interrupted for any significant period of time to take a phone call, go to the bathroom, make a sandwich, or whatever, what happens is that when you go back, if you continue working on it without clicking on the white part, it's supposed to automatically save, but you're supposed to see a little green box that flashes updated, it says. What happens is if you're interrupted, that update doesn't always work. I had the experience, I entered Flushing High School's action plans and progress monitoring myself, and I lost 2 action plans the hard way, and I had to re-enter them twice. So if you're going to, I think the safest thing to do is if you're going to be interrupted, and I say this to all the schools, and I think they updated the guidance to say something about this as well. The safest thing to do is make sure you click on the white part outside of the boxes. And in my case, my advice is to actually go out of iPlan and then go back in and continue working. That way you can check immediately and see whether the stuff that you were working on is still there. And then you could continue and without any interruption and make sure that it's saving as you're going along. It only happens apparently when you're interrupted for any significant period of time. And this has been brought to the attention of the technology folks, and I'm told that they fixed it, but you know, technology being what it is, even after they fixed it, I've heard from some schools and some of my colleagues have had issues as well in entering it. So with everything that's new, there are always bugs in technology. So, you know, keep that in mind because it's very annoying if you have to re-enter stuff. We all are very busy and we don't want to waste our time. The deadline for completion of that task is November 16th. Everybody's supposed to have entered their action plans and progress monitoring by that date. Then the superintendents between November 16th and the 23rd are supposed to give input and others. And then the action plans, progress monitoring, and goals are supposed to be finalized by the 23rd of December. That's the timeline as I have it at this point. One thing that I think I sent out to everybody, and people need to be reminded, initially schools could not enter their IEP plans, the special ed piece, their goals. That has been activated now. So in addition to just putting into the action plans and progress monitoring for the other areas of concentration, they have to enter goals as well and do the whole special ed piece. And I've gotten some inquiries from schools about content having to do with the special ed piece, and I've referred them to the special ed support folks at the BCO because that has some special aspects to it that people who deal with IEPs could answer in terms of the content. So keep that in mind as well. As I keep saying all the time, I am available 24/7, weekends, night, day, etc., to all schools to help with CEP issues, whether it's a technical issue, an access issue, a content issue, etc. I'm always there to help. So I know Dr. Mike has been referring to principals to me and schools, and I've been around a long time, so schools know to email me in general. So that's the state of the CEP. What I hope is that on November 16th, we can keep our stellar record intact. We're always either the first or the second or the third district in the city to be 100% compliant in getting all of our CEP pieces in. Because, you know, what Central does is they issue these reports of, you know, which schools are missing and completion rate, etc. So I'm very proud of my districts in Queens. We're always on top and we always complete everything on time or ahead of time. So that's basically what I have to say on the CEP. The signature pages, December 23rd is the deadline for uploading signature pages. I've gotten some questions on how this is going to be handled with the remote situation, and I'm told they're working on a solution, and we're going to hear more about how that's going to be handled. So that information will be forthcoming. It could be that they'll have some kind of a DocuSign or some other, mechanism for doing that as well. Now, the other piece that we need to talk about is the Title I training. As you know, we have that scheduled for the 17th. Last DLT, I told you that based on the information I was given at that time, we had, I was told that FACE was going to do a central webinar on SLT training citywide on November 16th. I was told the other day, I think on Friday I found out, or Thursday, that that's not going to happen on that date. It's going to happen later on in November. So, and I'm not sure whether it's going to be live or they're going to tape something and make it available, or both. That's in the discussion phase between the central office and FACE. So that means that in our presentation, which is on the 17th, we can keep some of the information that we normally incorporate about SLTs. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that Christine, and maybe based on these parent chats you've been doing, etc., if between now and the 17th, there are any specific questions that parents have about SLT items or PAC or Title I, maybe what you can do is you can, you know, make that information available to me. I'm the main presenter, so I'll make sure that I cover that, or I, you know, have an answer ready, instead of, you know, people just bringing it up at that point. I don't know whether you feel that that's a good idea, but, you know, that's my suggestion. One of my tasks today, because District 30 has theirs on the 12th, is I have to edit down the PowerPoint that I think I've made available to everybody, to see, you know, how much I want to keep and how much I want to take out. I'm not sure whether we invited the FACE person from the BCO. I have two names here, Sharon Kang and BB Matavan. Daniela, is Esther in touch with them? I think Esther and I, at one point, we emailed or talked about their involvement or participation or just observation of the presentation.
I understood, Gus, that you were going to invite them. I didn't know I had to.
Okay, fine. I have to go back on my emails, Esther, and see whether I did invite them or not. If not, I'll get an invitation out to them today.
And our rep is Sharon Kang, not Bibi Matatin. That she's from she's for the other group.
Okay, so it's Sharon Kang. I have a note here that next to her name, CSD 25. So maybe I contacted her and didn't hear, or maybe I didn't get the email out. I'll have to check.
Gus, are you saying to invite them to the SLT training?
Yeah, the Title I training that we're doing for the 17th.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they will participate in saying something, or they'll just, you know, observe, or maybe they won't come at all. I did contact Dragomira, our senior grants officer, and she said she would participate. Normally what the SGO does is they talk about the fiscal aspects and any questions, answer any questions that come up on a fiscal aspect. Now, Dragomira will check on it, but my impression is that we don't have any targeted assistance schools in 25, that they're all school-wide program. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about the targeted assistance portion. I could eliminate that, and, you know, just speak to SWP. Particularly, Christine, since you had, you know, a lot of initial questions about related to Title I and PAC, please let me know if there's anything in particular you want covered. Even if it's, any details that may not be in the webinar about, PAC meetings
Gotcha.
or selecting people or whatever, I'll make sure I tailor make it and put it in there.
I'll get you an email out in the next couple of days. I'll go back through all my notes and my emails, Gus, and I'll send one to you in the next couple of days with.
Great.
So we make sure we're all on the same page.
Excellent. And I want to thank Louis. I think he's on. I think Louis sent out the announcement, and he's handling the technology part of it to make sure that everything works. Louis, I'm also going to send you, once I've finalized the webinar, as my backup. In case I have any technical issues, you can always flash it up and make sure that it's working.
Okay, Gus, you got it.
Sounds like a plan, right?
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
I'm just confirming. So you're doing the entire training, correct?
Me, if anybody else wants to participate, I'm glad. In fact, I think people get tired of hearing my voice all the time. Right now, the only other participant I have.
Well, Christine and Esther, I think will be, if you guys all go through it together prior. And then, so because I'm thinking that, and then as we had said, as a DLT, so our, normally we did a district DLT training, but I think because, because of the way things are right now, it might be easier to just allow them to log into the, who's running that one, Gus? Faith?
You mean the citywide one?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm told that it's coming at the end of the month, and it's Face that's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
But,
so that's it might just be easier because I know that Face has spoken about some modifications that the chancellor may have made to different types of regulations. So we'll just allow that, and then once we come back to schools and are having meetings, we will run that as the district if no one's opposed to that. So the district specific one is the Title I and PAC because that's been surfaced before. But if no one's opposed, that we will just promote the citywide SLT training.
Okay. What I'll commit to is I'm going to work on looking at the webinar, the PowerPoint, slides that I have today, and might run into tomorrow, depending on circumstances. So by close of business tomorrow, Danielle and Mike, I'll send you the edited version, and you guys take a look at them, circulate it, decide if you need anything add to it, and let me know how to proceed.
All right, yeah, and that's fine.
Does that work?
Then,
okay.
Yeah, and then in terms of directives about notifying Face, I mean, you can feel free to do that, but my office does not do that. So anyone that would need to be invited according to Face from any directive you get, you can just send them any of our invites.
Okay, so I'm going to find out if Sharon Kang wants to participate, and if she does, I'll ask Louis if he could send her that that document with a link in it, so she could participate if she wants to. If she wants to say anything, I'll work that out with her.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows, Louis put the District 25 Title I and PAC registration on the chat. If you haven't registered already, please do so. I think we're up to 27 people or 25.
Yeah, there are 30 people registered now. Are we caring about 100%? First of all, do all schools have to register, or is it only schools that get Title I?
I was just going to ask, are we going to make it mandatory for every school?
Well, it should no, because not every school's Title I. I mean, we could leave it open to schools that are not Title I, but But
So should I be monitoring who's registering, or we're just going to leave it open to the ones?
monitor, yeah. And for schools that are Title I that have not registered, we can give them a little nudge to make sure that they register, because there was a lot of questions about PAC.
Well, yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Can we somehow make it, I mean, that if you are a Title I school, you have a representative there?
Only one person?
We'll push for everybody to come once we see the list. But I mean, we told PCs, even if they're not a Title I and their parents want to come and learn, this is a great place for especially we have some schools that were Title I and now they're not.
They lost it, right.
It's 32. They're still interested in coming. I told them to go ahead and sign up because it's a learning.
Oh, definitely.
Right. All right. Yeah. So Esther, you'll get that list from Lewis, and you will, you can reach out and make sure that people are registered.
And I'll send it to all principals again today, and we can mention it on Thursday during the conference or admin conference call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, I think I'm done. Thank you once again.
Okay.
For your
Thank you,
kind
guys.
attention.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And if anyone here is going to join the training next week, make sure you register. I'm using Zoom registration. Only people who register can get into the meeting. It takes like 3 seconds to register, but and people will be able to register the day of. Like if they try to join the meeting, that they won't be blocked for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lewis.
Charlene.
Gus, I'm sending you an email right now, really quick. Do you think you can just check that and answer it if you have the answer? If you don't have the answer, you could just email me back. And I also sent you the email about the goal request.
Okay, great.
But I'm sending you. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, Janine, are you prepared with a superintendent's report?
Yes, I do have a couple of slides, so if it's okay, I will share them.
Can you share them?
Yeah, I am, one sec, I tried to do it before and I think I shared the wrong thing, so let me just make sure. Okay, this is, folks, give me just 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm sharing the right screen.
Okay. Gus, did you get it?
I only got one on the goal request.
All right. I just emailed you a second one. You could just send me that answer in an email.
Okay.
If I can't share, yeah, this isn't it. Okay, give me. All right, guys, I apologize. I'm much better at sharing in Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to read to you. I'm going to see if I can even put this in the chat. Can't even do that. Okay, I got these slides this morning. So basically, it's the Queens North High School's vision and district focus and priorities. What I'm going to do is after I talk through this, I will put it into a link. I'll create a Google link and I'll put it in the chat so you folks can see it. So at our high schools across the districts in Queens, we believe that all students can learn to their fullest potential. Our vision is that student learning across all schools will be enhanced by exposure for all students to rigorous, high-level courses that will assure their proficiency in knowledge, skills, and habits of mind that will prepare them for a variety of post-graduation options. That's the vision. And the focus and priorities, there are 3 of them. 1, to increase the number of students across our districts that engage in blended and remote learning tasks that are embedded in college-ready curricula across content areas in our high schools. 2, build the capacity of math, science, social studies, and ELA teachers to deliver next generation aligned curricula and engage in vertical planning in a remote and blended setting so that students can successfully achieve in high-level math, science, social studies, and ELA courses. And 3, to support schools with providing social emotional learning and culturally responsive practices that focus on the whole child while learning through a pandemic. Okay, so that's the vision and the focus and priorities. And then Superintendent Lindsay wanted me to share the graduation rate data as of August 2020. So there are 6 schools. The district average is 87%. Veritas Academy graduation rate as of June 2020 is 85.2. As of August 2020, 85.2. It remained consistent. World Journalism graduation rate as of June 2020, 93.8. In August, 95. John Bound, 71.5 in June, 77.3 in August. Flushing High School, 77.4% in June, 77.3% in August. Townsend Harris, 99.7 in June, 99.7 in August. Robert F. Kennedy, 78.9% in June, 84.9% in August. And finally, Superintendent Lindsay wanted us to know that right now all schools are currently up and running. As we knew from the last meeting, we had some schools that had been closed because of positive cases of COVID, but currently everybody is up and running. Okay, and that is it.
Thank you, Janine. Can you unshare your screen?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna do that right now.
Okay. Okay. So, so Janine, also moving forward, you'll speak with Elaine about updating DCEP. So that'll be good for next month, so we can review that. And all right, new business. Any new business? Any feedback? Anything from the DLT? Okay, so so next meeting agenda, we're going to review the state of the district presentation, because we'll have some new details in there, some new data. So Janet, we're actually setting the agenda, so the only thing that you would need to get for next month would be any information from Gus. We're also going to review systems and structures by which we check our SLT health as a DLT. Hopefully Gus will have, will be able to get us the school CEP goals so we can do the goals report. And I think that's it. That's what I had, right? Okay. Anybody want to add anything else to the agenda? All right. I think that's it, everyone. Great meeting, as always. Nice to see everybody.
Wow, we ended very early.
Very early. I don't even know what to do with myself.
I was just going to say, what do I do with myself for the next?
It was a 2-hour meeting.
Not even. We started after 9 and it's not 11. It is not 2 hours.
All right. So wait, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Who's listening to Christmas music?
Joe made a motion. I need a second.
I seconded.
And
Second.
Clean. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, that's right. Happy Thanksgiving. Good call, Gus. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Make sure you sign